Nice. Here we are, another episode of if it be your will podcast. Sorry, it's Sunday, so we're the brains are slowly waking up to the spring and summer. Um, Today I'm reaching down to Pennsylvania, Lancaster, and I have Tyler Burkhart, who's come in, singer songwriter, indie artist, been doing this so long. I mean, Tyler's catalog, and we're going to talk about this, is just immense. And I'm going to give you two examples. Tyler's first two releases on Bandcamp, Volume 1, Volume 2, released in 2013. 29 tracks, the first one, and 23 tracks. And I believe, Tyler, those were released really close together, eh? Like in October or something of
Yeah.
that year.
Yep.
Amazing,
That's right.
amazing. So we have a prolific songwriter here, and I'm really excited to just have you on, Tyler. So thanks for joining us today and kind of talking about your music.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Now, kind of like looking in to kind of get ready for this. I saw that I mean, you're a very educated person. Your day job requires you to do um some pretty amazing things. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do apart from music? Just a little eyesight, because I do think it plays into what you do with your music.
Yeah, of course. I went to school for social work. I got my bachelor's and my master's in social work. My master's I got in 2016, and I work for a company providing support to people with intellectual disabilities who want to get jobs. And yeah, that's kind of my 9 to 5. And
Right.
I definitely enjoy working with people, and the day job provides, financial security too. But it does, yeah, it's a very human job. It's challenging, but it's good too. I like it. It adds
Yeah.
another dimension to my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do get a sense that it influences some of the songs that you write, and we'll get into that a bit more. But maybe we could start off, Tyler. It's just like when did music really start to click with you in
Mm,
the sense that you knew this was going to be something that had to be a part of your life?
yeah, that's a good question. I grew up with music in my house all the time. My parents are very musical, listen to music. I took piano lessons as a kid and then guitar lessons as a kid. I never thought when I was taking those lessons that I would play music professionally or write or I always had this like great admiration for bands. Like
Mm.
growing up, I just remember getting cassette tapes and CDs of bands that I was really into and just like idolizing them, looking through the liner notes and stuff and just kind of dreaming about like what it would be to be a creative person like that. But I never really, I guess I sort of assumed that that was something that people just knew they wanted to do from day one and were like, it was like their destiny or something. I only when, only after somewhere in college, it was 2011, 2012 that I started recording and just not even with the intent of releasing the songs, but just really enjoying the recording process and layering instruments together. Uh, my brother got me a USB microphone for Christmas one year that just plugged right into my laptop, and that was the whole start of everything. Just used GarageBand and recorded a bunch of songs. And then my brother was a big like advocate for me. Like I would show him the stuff that I was working on. He would say like, you should put this on Bandcamp. And I was like, what's Bandcamp? And then
Right.
yeah, and then it just kind of went from there. To
That's cool.
clarify, those two first releases on Bandcamp, they are enormous. They
Yeah.
were consolidated from like previous releases that were smaller.
Okay.
So like
Okay.
a couple albums and EPs that I forget why I changed the format of them. Um, I
Mm.
think it was because I went to put them on Spotify, and to put them on Spotify at the time, you paid for each release that you put up. And
Okay.
I had like maybe 8 or 10 releases that I was looking to put up, and it was going to be a lot of money. And
Right.
so I just figured like I'll just change the format and call it one album and pay once, you know? So
Good
yeah, that's
thinking,
kind
man.
of
Good thinking.
yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but that's cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
was a
mean,
little
they're great
sneaky.
songs too, right? That was all you, all recorded, like everything is you. It's like
Mm.
pure DIY bedroom
Hmm.
workings that you did those. And I imagine that a lot of your songs, your EPs, releases, singles, etc., all have that aesthetic to them, right? Very, I mean, you're at the center. You really control much of what gets put out there for people to listen to.
Yeah, that's true. Everything I like to think of it as like documenting my learning of how to record and how to produce, how to mix, how to play instruments even. I mean, very early on, I was playing instruments for maybe the first time, or not the first time, but my drumming skills very early on were so simple. And yeah, it is kind of it is, I value the do-it-yourself kind of aesthetic. A lot of the artists I like have that just kind of baked into their sound, and I've always connected to that. I think it's
Yeah,
more honest and invites people in a little more.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, your songs are so intimate, and it kind of brings me to this question about your themes. Like just looking through and listening to them, and I mean, I've been a fan for a long time. I've been posting on my blog your singles and records.
Cool.
Shit, I think I went back to 2016, 2015 that I
Cool.
first started.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was Sweet Spell 2015 was the
Mm.
first, and I just love that record. And it was a little bit more um filled in than those earlier recordings. They seemed a bit more
Yeah.
complete, bigger sound, fuller. Um, how do you think that your themes have evolved over time? Now, just to put a context, like I really feel there's a lot of relationship themes that take place.
Hmm.
Also introspection, like trying to figure out
Hmm.
who I am, how I fit, but
Hmm.
also big attachments to place.
Mm.
Could you talk a little bit about the themes and the ones that really kind of tug at your heartstrings?
Mm. Sure. Yeah, I think all of those play some part.
Right.
Introspection, definitely, sort of reflection on my own life and relationships, obviously. Um, it's a lot of it's kind of a mixed bag. I would say
Mm,
um, I kind of approach the themes from maybe like a creative writing sort of perspective to try. I think to to put it into a word, like a moment is the most powerful
right.
thing in writing, where through combination of like place and describing what's around you and maybe even like a very specific thing that you experience, you can put the listener or yourself into this moment and kind of feel what you felt at that time.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
totally.
I would say I pull from all different kinds of sources. Like Marianne, I was reading a book at the time that was like really like tumultuous for some of the characters, a lot of
Mm,
like heavy themes, and
mhm.
um, I feel like that sort of opened something in me, like just relating to that writing, making me feel like I want to try to write something similar or evoke some sort of
Right.
similar emotion. So yeah, it's a lot of like personal. I'll draw on
Yeah,
personal themes, but I also like to draw on themes that I feel like people can relate to beyond just my personal experience, and try to toe that line between the personal and universal.
absolutely. Yeah, because you're a prolific reader as well. I checked out some of your Instagram posts just of
Mm,
the books you read.
mm,
Um, and like they're some heavy, really heavy books, and some other, kind of music
yeah,
and artists, and their development and their struggles and stuff. So I
yeah,
imagine that you can feed off of a lot of what you read as well.
sure. Yeah,
Oh
I
well.
like art of all kinds, and reading is a big part of that. Listening to music, looking at paintings, visual art, things like that. Yeah, I
Right.
think it's
Yeah.
good to just have all kinds of inputs, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always ask this question too, because I do find songwriting can be very well, I mean, obviously it's super personal. And sometimes some of the songs that you put out are, they rip at your heart, some of them. Others, make your heart fly. It's this beautiful roller coaster ride you bring us on. Um, but how do you get that courage to write something so dear to you, so close to you, and then throw it out in the world for
Mhm.
everyone to listen to? Where do you find that? Like, how did that, is that something that evolves or a skill you develop? Could you kind of fill in some of those holes as to you go from writing these really personal songs to saying, okay, I'm going to let the world listen to them?
Mm. I think a lot of the music that I've connected to deeply has that same thing. Like there's a really deep through line that runs through my life in some way, and I feel drawn to the song. I feel moved by the song. In some ways, it feels like wanting to replicate that or try to provide that for other people, provide it for myself, definitely. I think that
Mm-hmm.
playing music and writing music is definitely a way that I like explore my own interior life and
Mm-hmm.
maybe try
That's
to
cool.
understand or frame the things I'm feeling or experiencing. So I think the decision to put it out is, I don't know, maybe a little not exhibitionistic, but like yeah, I don't know. I feel like anything I'm writing, I'm not getting to the level of personal experience that
Right,
I'm like throwing anyone under the bus or like
right, right.
publicly humiliating anyone or even myself. I don't think it's just kind of like I think it's a maybe a vulnerability thing that I always admire in people around me
Mm,
when they're willing to address something that's heavier that they're struggling with or that they're really elated by and really enjoy like
right.
really happy about. I think it's
Yeah.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure. I I I see it as tremendous bravery because I think a few of us in this billion people world of ours have can go beyond that. I think there's a lot of bedroom writers out there where the songs just stay in the bedroom.
Hmm.
But I admire people that can say, okay, I'm opening that door.
Hmm.
And particularly with your music, like it's everything is name your price on Bandcamp. Um,
Hmm.
it's not a financial kind of gain or a hustle you're trying to do. This is like you, and here it is. I mean,
Yeah.
no, you don't. I mean, if you want to give me something for it, sure, but um, and I just find that so noble, and necessary because, like you said, songs are universal, and some of the things you touch on in your songs we felt. Like it's
Hmm.
and I'll bring it down to something really concrete. Your song about Without You. Now, I kind of found the backstory on that. That was when I guess your fiance or girlfriend at the time was
Hmm.
away for a while.
Yeah.
And that feeling of, I know what that feeling is that you were singing about.
Yeah.
It's this common theme. Um, which leads me to my next one. How did becoming married change, you think, your songwriting
Hmm.
from, dating and like because relationships do play a big part in a lot of musicians. It's a very personal thing and it's your heart.
Yeah.
um how did that change over time as your relationship blossomed into a marriage?
Hmm. My first thought is that I never considered how annoying it is to live with someone who records music because there's so much like there's so much working it out and recording and re-recording and hearing the same riff like 30 times. And getting married definitely like sort of put a mirror up to me in that my wife will just say like this is so annoying, you need to stop. But but that's only like a small part of it. And she's
Right,
like
sure.
obviously super supportive of what I do.
Right.
But that was my first thought as to how to answer that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I don't think it's changed too much in like in my process. Maybe it's hard to say. I don't know. Like I'm 35 now, and my life is more full in other areas than just music.
Right.
I would say in my
Hmm.
like 20s, I had a lot more. time that I would just give to music all the time.
Right.
So I think my process has changed in that way, but my life, kind of like what I said about work, my life is full in many other ways, and I think gives like another dimension to my creative life, or at least I like to see it that way. But I do
Right.
try to keep working on stuff, and making music is very important to me. So I do still, that's always in the back of my mind, is like, when am I going to work on something next?
Right.
Yeah.
And do you carve out times during the week or on the weekends where you say, okay, I got to go in, shut the door, and just kind of like, what's your process like nowadays with this full plate that you have and
Yeah.
still finding the time to record?
Yeah. Monday evenings are like my
Okay.
time to work on stuff.
Cool.
I will find spare time throughout the week to work on things, but that's usually where I can get like a concentrated 4 to 6 hours in and just
Hmm.
really work on something. Um,
Right. Hmm.
so I do try to carve out that time. I mean, I can say that it changes all the time, like just based on schedules, stuff comes up and I
Sure.
can't make it in for a week. It's like I worry about it and I'm like, am I ever going to get back in there? But then ultimately I do and it's fine. But
That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. And tell us, Tyler, what's your process? How does it go from an idea to I'm putting this down on tape?
Mm. Usually guitar, starts with guitar,
Okay.
some kind
You'll
of
come up with a line or
yeah,
a, a progression that sticks
yeah,
out.
some
Nice.
chords, maybe a particular tuning, or two guitar parts that kind of talk to each other that I like and feel worth exploring. Or if I have like a theme in mind, like lyrically, um, and a guitar part that seems to sync with that. But it almost always starts with guitar.
Nice. Nice. And you mentioned tuning too. I was looking at your YouTube,
Mm,
and you have some tutorials on there
mm,
with different tunings, capo. I mean, just one string. I never heard it sound so full and complete, right? Like
mm,
because of the tuning. How do you get to that? Like, is it just mucking around, or do you
mm.
go somewhere to look at alternate tunings? Like, how do you get to that stage?
Yeah, it's both, I would say. Sometimes it is just like having a progression that's sort of working, and then one string feels off, so taking it up a half step or down a half step and then trying it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
it can come about that way. It certainly has come about by using tunings by like Nick Drake or
Yeah.
um, like Red House Painters or something like that. Just
Yeah.
being like learning songs by those artists and then just being in the tuning and kind of working something out. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
it makes playing live really tedious because between every song you have to like take a
Right.
tuning break, and that is just like a drag. It takes
Yeah.
forever.
Because you can't bring like 10 guitars on stage.
No, I know, yeah. Like who is this guy?
Oh, roadie, I gotta have a
Yeah,
roadie.
yeah.
So when you look at your Bandcamp page, kind of like put the whole thing up there, how would you best describe the evolution of your sound from, you know, 2013 or wherever? I mean, that's the
Mm,
first that was on Bandcamp, but
mm,
like, how do you find that your sound has evolved up until like
mm.
2024?
I listen to the old songs sometimes and I really love the raw sort of recording style, the mistakes and the things I didn't know.
Hmm.
I think now, I guess refining would feel like an appropriate word to use for the
Okay.
last 10 years. Just sort
Hmm.
of everything I know now about mic placement and mixing and how to record different instruments. Um, from a technical standpoint, I guess I would say it's become more refined. Um, from a like emotional or lyrical standpoint, I don't really know. I like to think that I'm doing the same work that I always was or have always been trying to do. Every song is like a completely new experience of songwriting for me. Like I don't sit down and write one and feel like, all right, I've got this many under the belt. Here's one more. It's more like it's like I'm just as like unsure and scared that I'm not going to capture anything, and then that inspires me to try. And so I don't think I'm like a very good uh, defining uh, person to ask how it's progressed over time, because I do feel um, somewhat in the dark even every time I try to start a new one, which is interesting. I don't know if
Yeah,
that ever goes
fun
away,
and
but
scary. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no, for sure, for sure. And what was the behind, like you'd re-released a couple, was that also like things that you had learned? I think Sweet Spell, eh?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
released it and then remastered it, I think it was called.
Right.
Like, is that through what you were mentioning? Is that just kind of seeing it at in a more mature way, or having some distance and kind of having more expertise with the recording process, and that was the kind of incentive to try it again?
Yes. Initially, I think Sweet Spell I remastered and re-released um,
Okay.
like a second time, and that was from a place of let's see let's see how this goes if I apply what I know about mixing and mastering um, to try and do it again. I had also started working with a mastering engineer who I really liked and trusted, and
Yep.
felt like it was worth trying. I don't think I would do it for every
Sure.
release I've put out so far. It was more like I did
Yeah.
it and I was like, okay, like I definitely learned something, but I don't know if it applies to like the grand scheme of things. But I can say then Sweet Spell was released on vinyl. So that was the master used for the vinyl release. And then Marianne was remastered as well. And I
Right.
re-released that with the vinyl release.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, as we kind of come to a close here, Tyler, thanks again for joining. Like, your story is really amazing. Um, I love what you do, and I love the way you write, and you're so prolific. I just, whenever I get an email with a new Tyler Burkhart, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Always name your price too, which I find super generous and noble
Mm.
as a musician to do. But what's coming down the pipe for 2024? What could you tell us about some of the stuff that's happening with your music?
Yeah. If I can just say first, I really appreciate you having me and the support over the years, whether it's blog
Cool.
posts or just showing it to people. Also, the fact that you've really done your research today, it feels like it's cool. It feels like you've kind of invested some time in understanding me and
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
process with me. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Well, I've
that.
been following, I feel like you've been a friend. Like, this is the first time we've met, but
Mhm.
I kind of know you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
probably know me less, but I do feel like we have this connection just through your music, just through me
Yeah,
listening. So I
yeah.
really appreciate you saying that, though.
I get that. Yeah, appreciate
A
it.
lot. Yeah.
As for what's coming down the pipe, I have some songs that I'm working on that are in like various stages of completion. Some of them I'm just like trying to get the mix done, and it's like never ending. One thing I think about having done this for a while is I now know all the ways that I can tweak something, whereas like
Mm,
early on I would just be like, okay, that's it, and it's out in the world. But now it's kind of like there's added steps to go through, which are good, but can
mm.
kind of drive me nuts.
Right.
Um,
Slows the process down a bit from what you're used to
yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I have some releases that I'm definitely going to be sharing this year sometime. My friend let me borrow his Tascam like 4-track tape recorder. So I've been
Oh, yeah.
doing some recordings on that in addition to what I'm doing in the studio, and really enjoying like just stripping it way down and recording to
Good.
4 tracks only. It's a fun thing. So I'll
That's
probably
great.
share those in some format. Um,
Cool.
but
Cool.
yeah, just gonna
Yeah.
keep chipping away.
Are you still performing sometimes? Like, do you
Yeah,
tend to kind of stay away from that nowadays?
sometimes. Yeah, if it works with my schedule, if it works with my
Yeah.
band also,
Right.
um, it sort of feels like it ebbs and flows. And I'm not like working with a booking agent or anything, so anything I am playing, it's just through either personal connections or people just reaching out to ask.
Cool. Cool.
But yeah, I'd say this like season of life, if I'm not like practicing or like to perform, I'm definitely like recording, and I love the recording process. Given the choice between the two, I would probably record like 99% of the time. So it
Well, cool.
works. Yeah.
It does work. And you're great at it. So please don't stop. I
Thanks.
look forward to those email notifications. And
Yeah.
I really encourage our listeners to go and check out Tyler's Bandcamp page. It is a gold mine of gems, some great singles, EPs, full albums. Um, and again, Tyler, thanks so much for joining me, and all the best in 2024 and all you do and keep doing. I'll be watching.
Thanks, Chris. Same to you. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man.
So much beauty in this world, it goes to waste. Though I've seen my share, I know that it could not replace.